Hey guys, doing Julie here again with one more video, and today I'd like to address a question that people ask me a lot, which is how many languages I speak. And before I start that, I'd like to say that the languages that I'm going to tell you that I speak are based on study. The languages I'm going to tell you that I speak today are not just languages in which I can say some sentences or some words, but all these languages are languages that I have studied. Either formally in college or informally doing as I'm still doing today, so learning languages. So I use them in some setting, which could be professional, academic. So I have experience using some of them, using them in some setting. And also I'm going to tell you the level, because many polyglots, maybe because they know they're not confident, they don't tell you the level. I'll tell you the level, and I'll tell you why. Yeah, okay, let's start. So the language I won't be speaking here is the language that's obvious to you, which is Portuguese, because I'm Brazilian. You can see the flag here. So I was born and bred in Brazil. Only recently I found out that I was born in São Paulo. Not recently, but I knew that I was born in São Paulo, but I didn't know until which age I stayed there. I look at my birth certificate. I stayed in São Paulo. I mean, Santos, only 1 month. So I'm Carioca. I'm from Rio. So I stayed in Brazil till I was 24, and then it takes me to the next level, which is the language I'm using right now. So my second language is English. And well, why did I start learning it? If you speak Portuguese, which I think you do, a lot of people here are from Brazil, you can watch the video. I'll try to put a card here saying how I learned English. And in my case, it was totally by myself. So you might forgive me for my mistakes, but I never studied formally. Just, of course, I studied real hard, but was informally. Never did it in a academic setting, never went to college or never went to an English school. So my second language, yeah. So yeah, I started learning English when I was 10 years old at school, because in Brazil we start learning, at the time I was a student, would start learning in the 5th grade. So that's when I started learning. So I was 10 years old, and from that I got so interested in the language that I couldn't stop anymore, and that led me to learn other languages as well. And as for my level, people might complain and whine, but it's C2, because I don't think there's anything else to learn in English in terms of grammar or vocab, because I can do whatever I want with the language. So I even did a presentation at the Polyglot Conference, so I can talk about linguistics by, of course, my everyday life, about any subject, technical or non-technical. I can watch TV, I can watch the news, I can watch movies, TV shows. I have no, it's difficult to find a word I don't know, so I'd say C2. The only way I can improve my English if I go to an English-speaking country. So that's my second language, so English. And my third language is Japanese. As many of you know, I have a degree in Japanese. I have a master's, which I took here in Japan at Osaka University. And back in Brazil, I have a bachelor's in Japanese from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. So I majored in Japanese, and actually my minor is German. So Japanese, so I've been using Japanese half of my life, so it became my first language now, because I don't live in a place where there are many Brazilians. So most of the time I'm using Japanese, so either for work or even with my wife. She's Japanese, so she talks to me, even not even standard Japanese, but dialect. My kids, usually they talk back to me in Japanese, but I force them to speak in Portuguese. But it's my first language now, so C2 also. I have no trouble speaking, writing, anything I want in Japanese. And so the language 3. My language number 4 is German. As I said before, my minor in college was German, which I studied for 3 years in college. Then I studied 2 more years. Oh yeah, I think I put some cards somewhere here. So there's also a video how I learned German. How I learned Japanese also. So German was 3 years at in college, and 2 years at Goethe Institute. So I finished the intermediate, and also did an advanced course. Well, in terms of knowledge, probably C1, but practice C1, but in terms of knowledge, C2, because recently I started looking at some books, C2. I have no trouble reading, actually. So if I watch Deutsche Welle, sometimes I need some time to adjust my ears, because I haven't heard for a long time, but I know what they're talking about. I can talk to any German speaker with no difficulties. of course, I forget some word here or there, especially the gender of words. I use die when it's das or das when it's der, but that happens because I don't listen to the language frequently. But it's C1. And as a proof of that, I have a certificate that is called, now it's probably called just a German certificate. It's in the past I tried a test called Certifikat Deutsch als Fremdsprache, which corresponds to B1. And then after I finished college, I tried the ZNP certificate, which is called Zentrale Mittelstufenprüfung. So it's a kind of C1 level certificate, but I think it's more difficult than that. So C1. So German is my 4th language. And from that, well, I'm confused about, oh yeah, Spanish is my next language. So, but in German, I started learning because of, I had a friend in college, in high school, and his grandmother spoke German. And she said that she talked a lot of good stuff about the language, and I got interested. So I started learning. There's also a video why, if you speak Portuguese, why I learned German, how I learned German. Then comes Spanish. Spanish is interesting because when I was in Brazil, I had no interest. Maybe that's the case of many Brazilians, even though we're surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries, with the exception of Suriname, Guyana, and French Guyana. All the other countries around us speak Spanish. But in Brazil, I didn't have any interest until I came to Japan for the first time in '94. So in my class, there were a lot of people from Peru, some mothers from Argentina, but mostly from Peru. And I started listening to Spanish. I got interested. I didn't really study at that time, but I tried to speak some, try to sound in Spanish, even though I knew it wasn't Spanish at the time. But I got interested. I started understanding Spanish. And I studied again when I came to Japan in '98. Which I really took more seriously and studied with some books. I have to make a video on that, how I learned Spanish. But it's a C1 because I understand it perfectly. We even went to Mexico, talked to people. I have no trouble speaking Spanish. Even if you hear, if you hear on this channel, there's a video in which I did some react to a guy talk about me, a Spanish guy talking about me. So if you look for videos on this channel, you'll find a video of me speaking Spanish. Okay, so Spanish is language number 5. Then language number 6 is French. I started learning it when I came to Japan in '98 because on TV here, there's a channel called NHK, and they have some language courses. So yeah, I just took French at that time. There was no particular reason, and to be honest, I didn't really like French. I came to like it most recently because so close to where I lived, there's a guy from France. No, there's a guy from Africa. But I didn't know where he was from. And I tried to speak to him in English, but I realized he didn't understand. And then turns out that I spoke French. And from that point on, I got interested in French as a really lingua franca, so a language for communication, and not because I'm interested in French, which is not the case. So yeah, French. Language 6, I would say my level is B1 because that's the material I'm using right now. I'm using some materials for the DELF certificate, which are level B1. So that's probably that's my level. And then comes Mandarin, which I started learning when I came to Japan because so if you speak some Japanese, you know that Japanese characters can have 2 readings. One is called kun yomi, which is a reading based on the Japanese language, and the other reading is called on, which is a character for sound, which supposedly came from Chinese. And in order to understand those sounds, I started learning Mandarin. But it turns out that the readings are not quite a Mandarin. That's a topic for another video. So Mandarin language 7. So probably at level B1. And as a proof of that, I have the certificate called HSK. I have the certificate level 4, but I took it maybe 6 years ago. So I'm still learning Mandarin, reading a lot. And the material I'm reading right now is intermediate, but I understand it very well. So probably my level is in now upper intermediate. So probably getting to B2, but I'm not sure. Okay, so Mandarin language 7. And then we go to Korean, which I learned when I came to Japan, and I got interested in Korean for the first time when I came to Japan in '93, because when we had a stopover in LA, so I heard Korean for the first time. At first I thought it was Japanese, but after trying to listen for a while, I realized I didn't understand it. And also in my course at my classroom in Okinawa, there's a lot of Korean students. So they spoke Korean all the time. I got interested in learning the language. Probably my level is B1. and I passed a certificate called Topic. I passed a level 1, almost getting to the level. So the certificate works in a way that according to your score, you're given a certain level. So I almost got the level A2 in the test I did. So I consider myself A2 or close to B1 because I'm studying with an intermediate material. So that's it, Korean. And then Italian. Okay, Korean language number 8. And up to Korean, I have experience using all these languages because I worked at Apple for a while, and we had people from all over the world. And from time to time, I would talk to French people from place New Caledonia. We had people at the time the iPhone 6 came out. We had a lot of Chinese, Koreans, and Taiwanese people come to the store, and that's why I decided to learn more Mandarin in Korean. So I used them. I had an opportunity using all of them professionally after Korean. And then the next language, which is number 9, is Italian, which I learned when I came to Japan in '98. So as I said, we had all this. We still have those courses on TV, and I started listening to Italian. I thought it's a very beautiful language, and I got interested. You know, so it's easier for us to speak Portuguese. So I think it's a very melodic language, and I started learning it. And I realized I speak it when I work in Kyoto with tourism. I had an opportunity to talk to some Italians. So yeah, I can understand it well. I can understand the Rai television, the Italian channel. I would say maybe my level is A1. No, sorry, A2, which is a material I'm learning right now. But I have ready a material. I started learning also with a material B1. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty decent for a basic Italian. Can have a conversation, talk about myself. And the last language is Dutch. And the reason why I learned Dutch is because back in Brazil, when I was studying German, I had the opportunity to read Anne Frank's diary, which in Dutch is Het Achterhuis. I think it's Het Achterhuis, but I read it in German. And because I read it in German, I felt like I had the obligation to read it in the original. I have it here. I might show it to you sometime, but that's why I started learning Dutch. And when I came to Japan, during my undergraduate graduate studies, I had the opportunity to take Dutch lessons for 2 years with a teacher from Belgium. And then I stopped studying Dutch for a long time. And about a couple of years ago, I started learning it again. And now I'm reading, I'm studying with a book level B1. So I can read well, I can listen to podcasts, I can listen to music and understand. I think it's pretty decent. I just need more practice. And that's it. So if you count until now, I speak 10 languages, including my native language, Portuguese. And I hope you like this video. Please feel free to ask questions. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you like this video, don't forget to hit like, to share this content so you can help my work. And I can work more with languages. If you want, you can be a member of this channel and support me. You can also support me on Patreon so we can know how I study, which materials I use. That's it. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.